Should I make a tutorial about seamlessly looping feedback, even the messiest stuff? Here is this piece of poo of a tutorial for you. Hey everybody, let's seamlessly loop some feedback. This is a pretty simple technique, so maybe we'll call this a beginner-friendly tutorial. And I don't know if you've made feedback before. I've gone over this a few times, but the focus today is on chops, and specifically the LFO. So we just have an oscillating signal. Hit P if you're not seeing how to control the parameters. Slow this way down. You can attach a trail to this if you want to see what this looks like over time. Say we're going to look at something closer to 7 seconds. Yeah. So you can see this is not quite a full cycle within that 7 seconds. Like say I'm going to make a template for making Spotify canvas. I think that's like an 8-second limit. So might need 1 frame less than that. So you just want to make sure if you're like trying to do this within a specific time that you can see that it peaks at 1 here and it peaks at 1 there and it overlaps, but that means it's going to be looping within this 7.9 second window, which is cool. Okay, so that's as slow of an LFO as we can work with. So if I were to want to have some alternate versions of that, do another trail. And I'm going to take this frequency, reference it to the new frequency. And now we can see, okay, that's the same. But we'll just multiply that times 0.5. Or actually times 2. 0.5 slows it. Okay. So now we'll have merge these. You'll see that it's, let's do 1.5. Just going to do this again, except for we're going to use LFO 2 for that reference. So this one's going even faster. You don't need these trails, but I'm just helping visualize what is happening here. Let's work with 4 of these, and this one's going to reference the other one. And now you see you can play with the type. Triangle give us steep controls. The other thing, if you want to learn more about this or anything, this is really where all beginners should start. I mean, I dove in and I was just playing with things and trying to plugging this into that, sometimes pulling up the documentation. But within TouchDesigner, any node, you right click on it, operator snippets, bam, you've got examples of all the different tools within TouchDesigner, and then this is showing what these different wave types look like. False, it's not showing square. There's a square wave. And you can play around with this. I think one other thing I might want to explore is this, which I haven't really used before, but you've got a wave, which is essentially doing the same thing. And oh, here, we could change this to 7.9 like I had earlier. So how does this work? Oh, cool. So with this, okay. Is that repeating? So, I mean, that's a more interesting ramp shape. If we do, this is pretty hard to eyeball, but you can make a lot more interesting patterns, whether this translates to good looking visuals. Yeah, I mean, you have way more control over your LFOs. And the nice thing about these operator snippets is you can play around with their examples and paste it into your project. So here we've got, yeah, we'll try using it. Whatever. Anyways, just try to make that as short as possible because you're not doing anything with this yet. But I'm still on medicated ADHD. Should not be that hard. It's kind of hard. So let's make a feedback. And you can open and close the palette here. We're going to just start with a simple. This is a fun thing if you don't know about it either. The material design icons is basically or emoji. What should we use? I mean, that is a sad piece of pizza. Let's try to find something else. Okay. So we'll make this vertical to the best of our ability. What's the max resolution? I guess we'll just do 720, 1280, and font. Let's do autofit. Let's give it some color. Here I go, making it up again. All right. So take a feedback. We'll take a feedback. And we'll take a transform. And we'll take a level. And we'll take a HSV adjust. And we'll add some more stuff in there. But then we'll just composite it all together. Plug that in there as a second input. Change it to over. Drop the composite onto the feedback. We'll add a null after this so we can look at the changes. Activate the display. And now when we transform any of this, let's do it in pixels instead of a fraction. All right. Now we are gooping. So we can change all of this. And you know, now our feedback is going crazy. Let's scale it up so it starts filling up the screen. Oh. And let's have the tile repeat. Let's start attaching LFOs to this. So I'm going to take these trails and all that stuff off. That was just for seeing how they work. Oh. But the nice thing about the trails is they give you information of like, especially you start changing things, you can see this is like, this one's mostly going from 0-ish to 1. So it's going to be a little imperfect, but the range is 0 to 1, 0 to 1. Well, what do we want to transform? Well, the way I do this is I will play with these values where it's just like, oh, maybe this should go down and then up just a little bit and then down to like, let's go -3 to 1.5. -3, 1.5. And then attach that to the transform y. All right. Now we can play with this wave shape a little bit. All right. But we want the beginning and the end to match, so that is close. Was I playing with the offset? That looks right. So like dip and then go up. Okay, but now you see our amplitude isn't quite going to 1. There we go. So there we have it, looping feedback, but we're going to use all of these. So we have different LFOs going at different speeds in relation to each other. And if we change this one, they'll all change because we referenced each other. Except for this last one. It's not tied. The one that we tied is not tied. Okay, sorry. I'm doing this so backwards. I'm sorry. But let's just do something with all of these. So here we've got one that's going from -1 to 1. This is like our slowest change. So maybe we'll use math. And a null. And let's I'm going to move this down. So this is our slowest moving one. What if we had that changing the hue offset, going from like 25 down to -5. So we'll change the range. It's going from -1 to 1. And we'll go from 25 to -5. And use that hue offset. I'm just going to do a little aesthetic thing quick. Take an edge. Let's make it black. And put another composite. I mean, there is an over operator too. We'll just go add or over. There we go. And then I've got a dumb little outline on it. Can go above 10 on these. Let's just keep playing with these. I mean, this is crap. This is it's kind of a crap demo, but we're see if we can make it a little more interesting. Let's add a lens distort in here. And then we'll play around with some of these values to see if there's something that could be cool. Oh, so we can like kind of smush and push. So even just going that little tiny bit. Like that could be cool. very small amounts. Let's see, can blow it out pretty fast. Kind of keep it contained. This one. And we'll just let it blow out. Okay, so let's go from this one is also going -1 to 1. We're just going to go 0 to negative 0.3. Zero. You can see because we reversed it, it's going the opposite way, but we're still using that. We're still using that sine wave. Does not matter. So just plop that here. Now it's growing and shrinking. And what else? Do we want to animate this one or just leave it? That's at 0.6. Go. If you just go -0.6 to 0.6. This one. -1, 1, -0.6 to 0.6, or was that 0.06? 0.06. Sorry, I'm skipping the nulls. Just moving. We're just cruising fast. All right. And then, I can play with some of these other values. This is like really trying to make something I don't care about, but can animate all of this. Just kind of seeing where the ranges work or not. Close that. But yeah, you can use this to animate basically everything. Let's reuse this one. So then we could use this one, and I would label all of these if I really wanted to keep track of it. We're just demonstrating possibilities here. So how much would rotating it? Oh, we can start adding this. Oh, get some interesting patterns there. So yeah, let's just throw in some numbers here. Let's throw this on the rotation. All right, cool. Let's take another one. Just gonna clutter this up. Maths. -1 to 1. Except for we're gonna want this to go. How about we start big? 1.1. We'll go 1.03, which I think is where the transform is at, and let's scale it. And shrink it a little bit. Well, we're not shrinking it. All our values are above 1, so it's just different levels of zooming in on the feedback. We could play with this black level. with our fastest one. And here we're going from -1 to 0 to 0.06. Just throwing numbers out there. Put this on the black level. Yeah. And we'll animate the brightness a little bit. I mean, you can just literally do this with everything. Let's go -1 to 1. 1.0. Or we'll go 1.1 to 1. On the level, the brightness. So yeah, I mean, you can just keep going crazy. All of these. We're not wiggling back and forth yet. So let's take. Let's take this. I'm just gonna make a copy of this one, and we'll just go from -3 to 3. Give it a little wobble on the X transform. Which one was that? This one. So, I mean, like, okay, you could type in new numbers, or we could just multiply it, so it's really obvious. Right? Yeah. So you can use this as a strength slider too, if you don't want to type in new values. What else have we got here? Now that there's all this stuff happening, what can we do with the lens distort? And put this on a black background, since that's how it's going to render anyways, using the RGB key. That's the easiest way. Yeah, so I mean, I don't necessarily like this, but oh yeah, what if we animate this one? Yeah, just kind of like. But yeah, you can do whatever you want. This was just a demo of the technique. What happens if we put a tile in there? Or you could put an edge inside the feedback. Oops. Yeah. So that's it. There's other tools for repeating where, I don't know, you could probably do some creative stuff with timeline. You know, if you want to time stuff to that. There's also an animation component if you really want to get into keyframing inside of TouchDesigner. I've only just started looking. Yeah, but here is this piece of poo of a tutorial for you. Very, very simple stuff. But if you wanted to make a seamless GIF or even a GIF, if that's your flavor, you know, this is the way to do it. It's not, then I would bring this into editing software, and basically, like, I would just, you know, look for the point where, like, this is all the way over here and kind of paused, and all the way over there, and when it comes back, find the other cut, in and out, and you've got a looping animation. If you use the timeline here and you record out, which I mean, I'm just always doing my recording in OBS, so I don't necessarily try to get perfect animations out of TouchDesigner, but that is possible. It's a little more intermediate, not quite advanced, but that's still, I just bring things, OBS recordings, into editing software, preferably not Adobe. Oh, I hope that's helpful. It's not as cool as my example. I think my example is using more of like a reaction diffusion sort of thing, but this is the technique, and you can apply it to anything you're working in. If you're working in 3D, you can just use this to your transformations, although you got to be careful how complex your geometry is. Maybe better to do that in an instancing setup, again, outside of the scope of this beginner style tutorial, but yeah, use LFOs. They're pretty handy. Is there anything I should follow up on? We good? Good. All right. Thanks, everybody.